You know what anger does to you? It takes away your intelligence and ability to reason. Come on, you cannot act like an infant who poops anytime, anywhere, for it doesn't know how to reason. Hi, I'm Alicia.
And I'm Akanksha, and in this video, we are going to talk about how to control anger. But before we go ahead, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel Zero to Eternity for more videos on human psychology. And please hit the bell icon to get alerts for more videos.
You can also visit our website www.zerotoeternity.com to subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn for all the regular updates.
Now, before beginning with the tips on how to control anger, let's first try to understand what exactly happens when your brain gets overpowered with anger. Zen works with a financial services company as a sales manager. As he is new to the company, he is still getting familiar with the dynamics of selling financial products. One day, while sending a proposal to one of his prospects, he gave a wrong price quote. When Zen's manager came to know about this, he burst out on Zen in front of the entire team. In fact, he challenged Zen's capabilities and said that he committed the biggest mistake by hiring Zen. Hearing this, Zen gets angry, argues with his manager, and leaves the office for the day by banging the door behind. As you can see, anger is the most passionate of all the negative emotions. When you are under its grip, it makes you believe that whatever you're doing is correct. It convinces your brain to vent out that rage on people, events, circumstances, etc. So basically, anger takes away your ability to reason and puts you into action mode. Now, when I say your brain goes into action mode, what do I actually mean by it?
So one of the typical things that acts as a trigger for making you feel angry is the very feeling of being put into danger. It's like you feel that you are unsafe. Now, how does this feeling of being put into danger gets aroused? This feeling just doesn't gets aroused when someone attacks on you physically. Like Akanksha giving me a punch and I giving her back. Whew, okay. So yeah, but it also gets aroused when someone attacks on your self-respect and your dignity, or you feel embarrassed or being wrongly treated by others, or simply the frustration of not being able to achieve your goals.
A similar thing happened to Zen when his manager challenged Zen's capabilities in front of his colleagues, which gave way to beginning the anger loop in Zen's mind. During this anger loop, there were a lot of physiological changes that Zen's body was undergoing. If you would observe Zen closely, you would notice there is an uptick in his heartbeat, loss of breath, tension in his body muscles, and change in his facial expressions. So, basically, when you're angry, two things take place simultaneously. The first thing involves the processing of the information by your thinking brain. Now, this is what exactly happens. The moment you hear those harsh words coming from the other side, a majority of this information goes to your thinking brain. Now, what is this thinking brain? Thinking brain is that part of the brain that is responsible for taking its time, analyzing a given situation, and then choosing to respond accordingly. So one of the significant functions of thinking brain is that it takes time to analyze. It takes time to think. For instance, when you are solving a math problem or making a decision, your thinking brain helps you to analyze a given situation and give a much more sophisticated response. But the challenge with this process is that it is time consuming and thus you are unable to come up with an immediate response for a given problem. Now, the second thing involves the processing of information by your emotional brain. So, the moment you hear those harsh words, a small part of this information also reaches your emotional brain directly. The emotional brain is the one that allows you to respond quickly but thoughtlessly. It is important to note here that such kind of quick response is helpful in situations that require high level of energy and where you need to respond instantaneously. For instance, if a burglar tries to threaten you, you either try to run away or defend yourself by engaging in a fight with him. At that moment, you do not have time to think and analyze the situation. You need to understand here that the processing of this information takes place simultaneously both in your emotional brain and in your thinking brain. But this processing is slow and time consuming as far as your thinking brain is concerned. So what does this mean is that your emotional brain, it starts to respond even before your thinking brain starts responding. Now, your emotional brain is the one that's habituated to act quickly and does not give you an opportunity to think. Sadly, does not give you an opportunity to think. So when you do not think and you act, what do? She punches you and you punch her back. That means you respond poorly. That's why when Zen was angry, he behaved irrationally as his emotional brain overpowered his thinking brain. That is, his thinking brain became a slave to his emotional brain. This is the reason why Zen's first reaction when he got angry was to get argumentative with his manager and banging the door. Now, what exactly happens in your body that creates this urgency to act unreasonably when you are angry? So, when your emotional brain receives information about those harsh words being used for you, the first thing that takes place is a change in your physiological factors. That is, increase in your heart rate, sweating, active muscles, and an expression of anger on your face. Simultaneously, now this is important, simultaneously, your body starts releasing energy producing hormones. As you have commonly experienced, whenever you are excited, stressed, or are in danger, you often say that you are undergoing an adrenaline rush. Adrenaline is the fight or flight hormone that gets released in your blood directly and gives you a boost of energy, thus making your body react more quickly. This quick reaction makes you behave quite unreasonably in certain situations, specifically when you are under stress. For instance, harming yourself, pulling a trigger, slapping someone, molesting someone, etc. Now that you have an idea how anger builds, it's time to know various ways in which you can control anger. Number 1. Identify the symptoms of anger in your body. As mentioned earlier, when you come under the grip of anger, certain physiological changes take place, like an increase in heart rate, blood pressure, activity in muscles, sweating, and change in the facial expressions.
So, if you identify these symptoms quite early in the anger process, this acts like an alarm bell to your thinking brain that you are about to get angry.
The second tip to control anger is to take time for responding. Not responding immediately will give time to your thinking brain to analyze the situation and save you from responding instantaneously and hence poorly.
That is, your thinking brain will take time to reason as to why a particular thing happened to you. That will help in breaking the circuit of your emotional brain taking over your thinking brain. And now that you understand that something is making you angry, try to come out of that thought or change your environment so that you get time to reason.
Tip number 3 in controlling anger refers to becoming aware of emotional triggers. That is, actions, events, or thoughts that make you angry. To avoid the infinite loop of anger, it is very important that you become aware of the triggers that make you angry quite early in the anger cycle.
What we are trying to say here is that you need to identify those thoughts, actions, people, events that make you angry. Identifying these triggers together with the physical changes that take place in your body, for example, sweating, changing of the facial expression. So if you become conscious of both the triggers and the physical changes quite early on in the anger cycle, the key word is getting aware of these things early on in the anger cycle, you can deal with anger. So the moment you identify them, the moment you see these changes, you become conscious of them. You can resort to various relaxation techniques like talking to your friend, leaving the room, probably changing the environment, reading, cycling, whatever takes you out of this anger mood completely.
Tip number 4 to control anger is to challenge the negative thoughts early on in the anger cycle. Let's go back to Zen's example. Zen's quoting a low price would make it impossible for the team to provide quality service, eventually meaning that they would have to give up on the client. Or it could be a possibility that Zen's manager was already overloaded with work or had a bad call with one of the clients before this event happened.
No doubt, Zen's manager lost his self-control in front of Zen's colleagues. Zen could have given himself time to reason as to why his manager got angry. This is because the initial negative thoughts initiate anger and result in other set of anger-provoking thoughts. Now, this is not to say that Zen's manager was correct in taking out his anger on Zen, but if Zen could have responded reasonably by calming himself down and challenging the negative thought about his manager, he could have avoided the situation from getting that bad.
Tip number 5 to control anger is to use various techniques to calm yourself down. Zen could have done a number of things to reduce the increased level of energy in his body and thus stop anger from building up. He could leave the room, seek out distractions of his own interest to change his foul mood, like deep breathing, going for a walk, taking up some activity in the recreational area of the company.
So these relaxation techniques take your body from a higher arousal state to a lower one, distract your mind completely, and stop anger from building up.
Tip number 6 to control anger is better communication. When we are angry, much like Zen, it is but natural for us to reach conclusions that may not be necessarily correct. When Zen was criticized for his work, he became defensive and fought back by raising his voice, bringing arguments that supported his thought process, and took out his anger by banging the door hard. In situations like these, instead of focusing your attention on the initial negative thoughts that come to your mind, give yourself time by calming down and indulge in self-talk. Try to understand, why did the other person get angry? That is, try to understand the underlying message that the other person wanted to convey to you. Don't say the first things that come to your mind when you are angry. Rather, calm down and then think, what do you want to say?
We hope these tips would help you to control anger and also help you to think and act instead of acting thoughtlessly when under its grip. If you liked our video, please hit a like and share it with your peers who need help with regards to managing their anger. If you're keen on reading an in-depth article on how anger builds up and what you can do to control anger, you can read our article, the link to which is provided below. You can also refer to the books and the resources that we referred to while creating this video on how to control anger, the links to which are also provided below. Also, you can hit the bell icon to get alerts for our new videos on human psychology and self-help. You can also subscribe to our newsletter for all the latest articles by visiting our website www.zerotoeternity.com. That's all for today. Stay tuned for our next set of videos.